Amsterdam Kitchen. Join us live on Saturday mornings
from 10 till 12
on Broadcast Amsterdam.
Or catch up later.
It's all online.
Yeah, hello and welcome to Amsterdam Kitchen on this Saturday, the 7th of September. We're doing a special pop-up studio. If you're walking past the Kinkerstraat in the rain, you poor things, you'll see us in kind of a shop window.
Yeah.
We've got the on-air sign. So this is me, Cathy Central, and Geli Carney.
Hello. Good morning.
We sound a bit different because we're not in our normal radio studio. Because we've got a special guest, Josephine, who's talking about all kind of accessible restaurants in Amsterdam. And as it would have it, our studio's not very accessible.
No, ironically, but
so we've come out to this. We've always wanted to do a show in the front window of Stella Amsterdam, 85 Kinkerstraat, and now we are.
Yeah.
So that's why we sound a bit different this week. But we've got a great show for you, local food stories in Amsterdam. What have we got, Giddy?
We've got In Season and the Winkelwagen, of course, and Eat My Dutch, which is all about coffee verkeerd this week.
Okay, Eat My Dutch. We've got to do a jingle for that.
We have.
We've got reviews, of course. You've been at pizza in Oud West.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I've been all the way to Overijssel.
You broke out of the Amsterdam.
It's quite some way from Amsterdam. But you never know. Some of our listeners might get there.
Absolutely.
Markets and more and some other stuff. Yeah. If you want to get involved in the show, you can tweet us at broadcastams and our Instagram is broadcastamsterdam. What was I going to say? Hopefully you're listening live, but you can always, if you ever miss the show on Saturday mornings, 10 till 12, it goes online on demand. I'm a bit behind. We also want to do some podcast versions without the music for those of you who just haven't got time to listen to the music, but those things will come.
Yeah.
So, of course.
I've had people asking me how to do it.
Oh, okay.
And
they're after it.
These are people overseas even.
Yes,
so,
they've got no time for a 2-hour show with music. Just give us the talk. Okay, I'm a bit behind. I'm going to do 2 episodes next week of podcast only talk. It's on iTunes already, like the series. So if you subscribe, it'll just go to your box when it's ready. That's what you should do, everyone.
First stop is always Broadcast Amsterdam, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, broadcastamsterdam.nl, our website.
And then there's a podcast button, and then you should find us on there.
Yeah, whatever's there is there.
Broadcast Amsterdam.
Yes, you're back with Broadcast Amsterdam, and welcome to our special guest, Josephine Rees from Able Amsterdam.
Thank you. Hello.
Welcome. So, could you tell us what is Able Amsterdam and why did you start it up?
So, Able Amsterdam is a website where I share wheelchair-friendly places in Amsterdam around the city centre and kind of the outskirts of the city. And I started my website because, as a mobility aid user myself, I realised that actually being such a historic city with lots of nice historic buildings, it was actually very difficult to know where you could go inside and just kind of enjoy simple things like going to a restaurant, going to a museum, doing fun things that I think a lot of people take for granted. And yet when you are in a wheelchair or when you use things like a rollator or other mobility aid, and you can't, especially when you can't go and use steps, it's really hard to know where you can actually go just to enjoy yourself and do some fun things around the city. And there are lots of fun things to do, so I really wanted to know where I could go, what I could do, and I wanted to share this information with other people.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Was there this moment where you just kind of felt, that's it, I've had enough, I'm going to do something about this?
Yeah. I moved to Amsterdam last September, and from the start, I really wanted to explore Amsterdam, and I'd never lived here before. I am half Dutch, and I had come to Amsterdam a lot, but not as a mobility aid user. And I think already from the start, I was kind of thinking, okay, I really want to get the most out of this city, and I had a look on the internet to see if there was anything else around that would show me where I could go and what I could do. And the resources that were out there were very limited and just not detailed enough for what I was looking for. So then actually just from the start, I decided that's it. I'm going to make something if there's nothing out there that I'm looking for, and I can't possibly be the only one who has this struggle. I'm just going to start something myself. And especially in English, because I realized as well the resources that are out there are mainly in Dutch. And I just realized there are lots of people that visit Amsterdam or live here as expats, and they might have mobility issues themselves or have friends or family members who are coming to visit. And all of a sudden, when it's a challenge that you're facing or someone in your, direct environment, you realize, oh, that restaurant that I really liked, oh, wait, there's steps. Or, oh, I really want to go there, but, my mum or friend won't be able to use the toilet there. And I think there are just some basic needs and things that I wanted to make sure that everyone could get the most out of these places.
It is like putting in a pair of new eyes when you're suddenly confronted with access issues. My father and mother-in-law both need wheelchairs, not all the time, but they can't walk long distances. So when they visit, we are suddenly, as you say, just looking in a completely new way at how to get around the city. So I fully sympathise with and I'm very grateful actually that you've got this website, because that's also been my experience trying to find the information. You have to go either to the travel websites to find out about how buses cope with wheelchairs, and then you have to go to the restaurant to see how the restaurant copes with, whereas your website is doing that all in one place. I think it's brilliant.
That's the thing, and I realised as well that, it takes so much effort and energy to call individual restaurants, whether it's for restaurants or other places, but to call places, and every time you want to do something, to have to go to that effort to check if it's accessible at all. And I also realized that when you make these phone calls, the people who might pick up the phone or represent a restaurant have the best intentions, but may not actually understand what accessibility means and what features and facilities are useful to people and necessary for people with mobility issues. So I had situations where I would go to a restaurant full of hope and thinking that the person who'd informed me about the accessibility was giving me the correct information, and then I would arrive somewhere and realize, oh, but they forgot to tell me that there's 3 steps to go down to the restaurant, or they thought that an accessible toilet simply meant a toilet on the ground floor, but really there's so much more.
Yes, yeah. So let's go into detail then. What sort of thing really makes a restaurant truly accessible? So
there's lots of different things, and I should also say I'm not a professional in this field, so my insight is based on personal experience. So there will be, more things that other people, like occupational therapists and people who really go into the details and measurements of things would know more about. But the things that I've noticed, first of all, an accessible doorway. So that would mean ideally it would really be something that doesn't have a threshold, has a wide doorway, something like a minimum, I believe, of 80 or 90 centimetres. And what I love is automatic doors, because it means that you don't need to struggle with a wheelchair or a rollator or crutches and have to hold open a door or try and manoeuvre through. Heavy doors are also a struggle, so ideally you'd have a lightweight door. But I also realize there are things like fire regulations which sometimes make it a bit difficult to find a balance between accessible doorways and something that's also, adheres to fire safety regulations. But once you're inside a restaurant, you need to have space for wheelchairs to maneuver. So, if you're in like a small restaurant in the center of Amsterdam, often there's not a lot of space to maneuver, and if you're walking, that's fine, but if you're in a wheelchair, you need a lot more space to kind of get around. So space is a big one. Low tables and chairs, because if you're in a bar and all you have is high bar chairs and bar stools, someone in a wheelchair is going to be at a completely different height to everyone else, and that can feel very awkward, and it makes you feel a bit isolated from the conversation, because people are constantly looking down, or you're kind of trying to look up, and in a crowded space especially, that's difficult.
And nowhere to put your drink.
Right, exactly.
The most important.
So and aside from that, there's things like also something as simple as having a detachable payment terminal, because one struggle that I had was sitting in a wheelchair and then you want to pay, only to find that the payment terminal is on a bar.
It's so often there.
Yeah, and then, it would mean that as a wheelchair user, you'd either have to give, if you're with somebody, a friend or a family member, your PIN code. The big one as well is an accessible toilet, which in itself has all these different features as well.
Yeah.
And I think especially, for me, the restaurants that I put on my website, my one huge criteria is an accessible toilet, because I feel that even if the actual restaurant is as accessible as it can be, if it doesn't have a toilet that you can use as a wheelchair user, then it doesn't meet this basic need.
Yeah, basic need if you're going out drinking all night.
Yep.
I think so. Thanks for bearing with us as well for the street sounds, because we're doing our radio show on the street by the shop window. There's various food deliveries going on.
Trams.
But no, it's the whole life of Amsterdam going on around us.
A lot of energy.
Yeah, it's
great.
A different kind of show. So we were talking a bit about the law, because there's certain things that you're right we should be doing, but what's legally possible? It's a bit fuzzy, isn't it?
So I started my website last year, and in the process I've been trying to figure out what kinds of regulations are in place. And I first started, just putting restaurants online, and then I realized at some point I just want to know even what is in place, because I found there's so much variation in, even if there is an accessible toilet, one accessible toilet is ridiculously spacious and I love it, and then another one might be accessible in terms of the other kind of things that it has, like support rails and that kind of thing. But if the space isn't large enough, you can have everything in it, but you can't even get in a wheelchair. So to be honest, that's something that I'm still looking into. I know that the Netherlands has adopted the UN Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, but to be honest, even within that, I've kind of found that I think restaurant representatives also don't always know what that even means. When I was researching which restaurants to put on my website, one of my questions was whether service dogs were allowed, because sometimes wheelchair users also have service dogs to help them to pick things up or just help them with daily tasks. And I've had restaurants tell me, we don't accept service dogs because, for example, we have an open kitchen, or we have, an open kitchen with lots of meat. But then these restaurant representatives have told me that service dogs are not allowed. But actually, that's not true, because you can't stop someone with a service dog from entering an establishment.
Ah, so that's not really legal.
Well, as I understand it's not. And so I just think it's interesting. Either people are either they don't know, or they're hoping that I don't know.
Yes.
And that I'll think, oh, okay, then it's not allowed. But, so there are lots of things. There are regulations in place, but just from personal experience, I feel like they just aren't good enough, because there needs to be more. There just need to be more standards about accessibility and what it means to be accessible, to ensure that there is this minimum standards. And
education of hotel restaurant staff.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can take it a step up and do a campaign, all sorts possible there. Tell us again what Able Amsterdam, because it's more than just restaurants, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot more. So I try and share a variety of things for a variety of age groups. I share things like just various things to do. So whether you want to go out to a restaurant, a museum, do a canal cruise. I've got a nightlife section on there, because also I'm 25 myself, and I realized that a lot of the resources that are out there for mobility aid users, or just kind of even when you think of somebody who uses a rollator or crutches or a cane or something, often people just think of older people, when actually I feel like there's this whole underrepresented group of younger mobility aid users who, for all sorts of reasons, whether it's chronic illness or accidents, end up using a mobility aid. But it doesn't mean they don't want to go out and have a drink, or go out to a restaurant with friends, or do fun things that people in their 20s or 30s or whatever age want to do. So that's why I included a nightlife section, but it's really hard, because it's hard to find bars that are accessible.
Yeah. Come on, Amsterdam! We're gonna make it easier for Josephine. She wants to go out and party. Yeah, 25. Like, you've got a lot of partying to do, I can tell you that. Oh, I feel old.
I have a nightlife section, I have restaurants, museums, I have a kids section. I think I just want to try and cover, in as much as that's possible for me to do by myself, just things for a variety of age groups to do.
So for those who've tuning in, again, it's pretty noisy here on the Kinkerstraat. So thanks for bearing with us. It's great. This is really a big delivery day, Saturday, obviously, or something.
It was nice and quiet during the music. It's like they know what we're doing.
Yes. Oh dear. But let's talk specifically about the favourite accessible places in Amsterdam. Where do you like to go where, this is great, I can really be comfortable here?
I have a few favourite places. One of the places I went to recently that I really like is called Persijn, and it's in the QO Hotel near Sept. The reason why I really like it is because it's just so spacious. The people, first of all, was so friendly and helpful, but they didn't even have to help me very much, because the facilities were actually really good. Spacious restaurant, lifts, good accessible toilet, just lots of features that mean that if I go there, I can just I don't have to think about my disability. I don't have to think about a kind of struggle. Of course, I have to say there's not a perfect place, but there are places that get pretty close. So other places that I really like are, for example, Vondelpark. It's one of the really nice restaurants in the Vondelpark. They have, I think, aside from the fact that the entrance is a bit of a struggle for me, everything on the inside is just really good accessible toilet, things like that, again, it just means I can go there and just enjoy my dinner with friends or lunch or whatever I'm doing.
So you said that's Vondelpark you're talking
yes.
about, but you said off air that you live in the east, right?
I do, in Southeast.
Okay, so is that an easy journey for you?
I go there, I try and travel around Amsterdam, and one of the things that I think is really good about the Netherlands is that if you live here and if you have mobility issues, they have, for example, a special taxi service, which is an addition to the public transport services available. So if you struggle to use public transport for whatever reason, in my case, mobility issues, sometimes I just have days where I really can't walk far enough to be able to use the metro or something. So they have a special service called aanvullend openbaar vervoer, and it means that I can book a taxi service and that can take me there, and you sometimes you pick up multiple people along the way, so they have a route. So sometimes I use that. Other times if I'm with friends, the metro system I think is really accessible. The only annoying thing is when the lift decides to pack up, so then you might arrive somewhere and you're so close to the restaurant. Sometimes it's easier than other times, but I'm lucky that there are services in place in Amsterdam to get us around.
Does the taxi service, is it free?
It's not free. You pay the same amount as you would for that distance with public transport.
That's brilliant.
That's fantastic.
That's really good.
Wow.
And if you go out and you have like a boozy lunch or something, they'd be all right with that, I guess.
I think so. They've been. I haven't had a drunken night and used them, but I think they're really. You're just the idea is that you can use that service for leisure activities, just fun things. So
great. And also, so then that's person and the Vondelpark, and these are kind of historic buildings. Some of the Vondelpark 3, and it shows that a lot of the times people. There's the excuse that, it's very difficult to adapt.
I think another good example of that is Lottie's Bar and Grill, Cafe Bar and Grill, and they are located along, one of the, in a really historic building close to Dam Square, somewhere behind Dam Square. I've forgotten the exact street name. But they're in a historic building, and yet they've really tried to adapt the inside within what you're allowed to do, because I realize there are buildings where you're not always allowed to, adapt
to make
the
changes,
outside.
Yeah.
But on the inside, they have a platform lift, they have an accessible toilet, and I really feel like they have gone out of their way to kind of make an old building accessible. And it just goes to show it doesn't have to be a new building for it to be wheelchair friendly.
Yeah, that's Lottie's. Is that the one inside the hotel?
I'm thinking we were talking about Lottie's last week, weren't we? That's inside the Hoxton.
Yeah.
It's still so bloody noisy upstairs.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. They're like moving house or something.
It sounds like it, doesn't it? Obviously, you were confronted with a whole set of challenges.
Yeah.
And at some point, you got to a point where you were ready to kind of think beyond that.
Yeah.
And the idea of Able Amsterdam came to you. But I really like the website. It's very clear, easy to use. And I just wondered how much of it kind of sprang fully formed, or was it a real gradual evolution while you were coping with your...
For me, it was definitely an evolution because, so for those of you who are listening who don't know, 2 years ago I survived a very serious traffic accident, and that's what led me to using mobility aids, and I'm still in recovery, and it's kind of a whole situation of ups and downs because recovery is just very difficult, challenging, but I try and make the most of it. And, for me, in the beginning, it was just focused purely on getting back to being able to do basic things in my daily life. But then at some point, I decided I wanted to just do something more. And then I had this idea. I moved to Amsterdam, and then I started thinking about, how can I share this information with other people? And it started off as an Instagram account, but I soon realized that as much as Instagram I thought was a great way to find people who needed my information and to share my information, it wasn't very easy for people to navigate. If I'd shared a restaurant or something and then someone thought, ooh, what was that restaurant again that she put on? It would take a long time to have to scroll through and find it. So then I thought, okay, I need to make a website. And then it was definitely several months of me learning how to build a website. And so, it was a definite learning curve, but I really enjoyed it. And it took a while, but now I'm, and it's still developing, but I'm happy with what it is so far.
Yeah. It was a great mix of, highly practical information at a level that is really needed. You know, it's not just, as I say, it's not just ticking boxes. It's really kind of getting down to, well, the toilet in this restaurant is like this.
Yeah.
But also, you know, your blog articles I thought were fantastic for you know the warmth of tone, positivity, which must be a struggle all on its own. So yeah, I recommend anyone who has who shares these the need for this kind of information. I really recommend the site.
It's ableamsterdam.com. That's it. You can look it up.
Broadcast Amsterdam.
Oh yes, you're back with us on Amsterdam Kitchen. It's flipping noisy on the Kinkerstraat, and it's also raining. You can see us. We've got our on-air box in the window. Wave to us if you're passing by Amsterdam. So we're back with Josephine Rees from the Able Amsterdam platform, ableamsterdam.com. Look it up. And we're going to talk about, you do reviews of restaurants and mostly positive reviews, and you had a weird experience, didn't you? Because not all restaurants and cafes are supportive.
Yeah, I have to say, most places when I've gone there, and at first I should start with saying that the only restaurants that I put on, now it is hailing, so that's quite loud.
It is.
So the only places that I put on my website are places that are accessible, because I think there are enough places out there that aren't accessible, unfortunately, and I just want my website to be I mean, I do highlight things that I think are challenging and could improve, but I want it to be overall just a positive platform for people to go to.
That's good. That's good.
So I go to restaurants, and I kind of go there personally to review their accessibility. And I have some places where I go, most places are very positive and very supportive of what I'm doing, and luckily realize the importance of sharing, you know, this information. But I've also had situations where I've gone to restaurants and I've expressed, you know, that I was so happy that they were accessible and would I be able to put them on my website. And then, you know, some restaurants unfortunately say they'd rather not be promoted in this way, or that they don't want that information to be shared. And yeah, to be honest, my first impression was that I feel like there's kind of a bit of a stigma around disability and mobility aids, and just kind of, as I was saying earlier, about people just associated with older people, but actually anyone could end up using a mobility aid for various reasons.
Yes, absolutely.
But so my first impression was that I was kind of worried that they thought that there would be this sort of stigma associated with the restaurant. But actually, you know, wheelchair users are just customers,
Yeah.
so I don't personally, I don't see the difference. But then it's something, to be honest, that I won't understand. I tried. I'm still thinking about that one,
Yes.
but I just, you know, I try and focus on the places that do want to be shared on my site and maintain positive relationships, because it's been a great way also to create awareness and talk about improvements and things, and just like put people in the spotlight that are doing the right thing, you know?
Good. I can think of the only legitimate reason for a cafe or restaurant to maybe not want to publicise their fact they're accessible is because of hordes of women with buggies with babies in one of those like birth clubs. Yeah, because then you really do get like 10 buggies and prams in, and then they only have a cup of tea and then go.
Yeah. Although I mean, to be fair, those groups tend to happen in the quiet times.
Yes, and so, they probably that's true. And
but
if it's a regular customer,
there
and
is
they
this danger.
Yeah, that's just a joke. There is no excuse.
For me, the way that I see it as well is these restaurants, for example, have made this huge investment to have these accessible toilet facilities. Yes. And to me, I would think, if you've made that investment and you are aware, then surely you would want your target users to know that those toilet facilities are there. But maybe I don't think I'll understand it. If anyone has ideas, please enlighten me. But for now, yeah, it's just difficult sometimes. But in general, people are super supportive, so that's really great.
Brilliant. And then, of course, you can't always eat out. What do you cook up at home?
I like to cook things that are quite simple, because I can't stand for very long. And if you are standing at a stovetop and cooking something, I tried to make risotto the other week. It was very delicious, but it took such a long time that by the end of it, I was really exhausted. Yeah, but I like to make tortillas. That's the thing that I really love. I just love, you know, if you need something really filling and you can just throw whatever you want in there.
Yes.
Lots of avocado and salad and lettuce, the tomatoes and yummy things. So that's the one thing that I like to make.
Oh, good. Yeah, because this is Amsterdam Kitchen. We certainly
we're all about food,
cooking club.
Eating.
Yes, cooking club.
Is it accessible?
Yeah, you move around in different places. It's people's houses. Gilly's not really, because she's up on the third floor.
I'm going to say,
I'm on the ground floor, so we're quite accessible.
So next time it's at your place, it'll be all right.
Yeah, let's do it. You've got lots going on, and you've also got your personal health story, which we had a little bit of, but it's going to be on air tomorrow on Broadcast Amsterdam. A bit different. It's with a thoughtful series with Ruth Wilson that we've started. It's a couple of episodes so far. Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. It's a half an hour spot. It's called Your Health Stories, and Josephine is going to be in episode 3. So it's a mixture, isn't it, of, how you got to have these mobility issues, but also some music.
Yeah, it is. And music that I found represented my kind of, whatever we're talking about in that moment. I picked some songs that I felt would represent my time in my recovery, or, whatever we were talking about. So, it's fun to pick those songs as well, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with everyone. Yeah,
so the premiere tomorrow, 11 o'clock. But if you miss it, it's all right. It'll be online. Like most of our shows, if you miss our shows, they're online. We have a Mixcloud version with the music, and with a lot of the things we take the music out. But this one, it's only half an hour. The music is part of it. So if you miss it, don't worry. Just go on our website, broadcastamsterdam.nl. Now, Josephine's going to stay on the show, but we'll just do a shout out again to your website, ableamsterdam.com.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you got any new stuff that you're adding?
At the moment, one of the things that I would really like to add are hotels, because I've received a lot of emails from people who are coming to stay in Amsterdam, and they'd like to know where they can stay. Again, an accessible hotel room has all sorts of things that you need, and not all hotels are accessible, also, again, because of the historic buildings. So that's one thing I'm really looking to develop. But that's going to take a lot of time, because I also want to go and see these places in person.
Yeah. So if you're listening, Amsterdam, and if you've got connections at one of these hotels and you've got a good accessible place, you should get in touch with Josephine. Go to her website, or we can put you in touch. She's got more to say, more to share. That's great. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
With all the crazy sound from the street, it's still tipping it down with rain. We've had deliveries, we've had people bumping upstairs.
Yeah.
But well done for making
persevering.
Yeah, it's crazy. Amsterdam Kitchen.
Yeah, we're back, and it's review time. So, but Cathy, just before I go into mine, I've just got a question for you. If you went into a restaurant and you were asked to move tables 3 times, would you stay?
Ooh. Depends how hungry I was. Depends if we were in the middle of nowhere or not. Ooh,
Yeah, no, that happened to us this week, and we didn't stay.
No. Was there a good reason? 3 times.
3 times, yeah. So it was a rare evening where my husband has just come back from a trip away, and both of our daughters were away on school trips. So I thought, fantastic, we'll go and have a nice meal for 2 just round the corner. And so we went into this place, and it was perfect. There was a table right by the window. I really like this place. It's got really high ceilings, dark wood furniture. It's like a kind of pub from back home.
Yes. Are you going to name it? Are you going to name and shame?
Should I?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, well...
It's not slanderous.
I mean, let me just couch it by saying that I have had very nice occasions there too. The restaurant is appetit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we... we went in, and there was a really nice table set for 2, even though it was meant for 4. Sat down, and having checked it with the bar guy behind the bar, and then the lady who's the sort of head waitress came around and said, "Oh no, I'm really sorry, that's actually reserved for 4. I just haven't set it up yet." Okay, fine, all right.
Yeah.
So we move along to another table that's quite a squeeze. My husband has to kind of dive under the table in order to get to his seat.
Yeah.
At which point the ladies next to that table say, "Oh no, this is reserved for my party. I'm sorry, you can't sit there." So we look at the waitress, who didn't seem to actually know that was the case, and she just kind of went, "Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, you have to move over this way." And so I dutifully walked over to a 3rd table. At which point Andrew had enough and said, "No, we're not doing this. Let's go."
Yes.
So that was an experience anyway. Just wanted to get that off my chest.
Did you get out to dinner?
We did.
Good.
Yeah. And but actually, so that's another story. But what the place I actually want to review this week is not where we went to from that experience, but it's a regular place, again, very near to where we live, called Sotto Pizza. At our house, Friday night is pizza night, and the only thing that varies about that is whether I cook it myself at home or we go out. And if we're going out or getting a takeaway, it tends to be from Sotto Pizza, which is on the Amstelveense Weg.
Can I just stop you and go back to the whole idea of pizza night is supposed to be no effort, minimal effort.
Yeah.
But your pizza night, you actually make the pizza, including the dough.
I know. Well, this
Gili Carney.
It was something that evolved even before the kids came along. We just needed a formula for a Friday night where no one had to think about anything, and it was always just.
You just have to rustle up a homemade pizza.
Well, no, but that was the point, right? It was always just a bought pizza from home. This was back when we lived in the UK. And then over time it sort of evolved, and I got really into my cooking, and I started making the base from scratch, and even starting on the Thursday so that the dough matured and yada yada.
Such a mistake. You're raising expectations nowadays.
Well, exactly.
You can't ever go back.
Well, I did go back. Because I did realise at a certain point that this was really defying the whole point of Friday night is pizza night. Yeah. So I did go back. I claimed it back for myself. And as I say, now we've kind of reached a happy medium where I buy the dough.
Yes. You can get
it's ready rolled.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So all I'm doing is making the base and just shoveling it all together. And it's nice. Yes. But as I say, even then, sometimes that's too much. And a takeaway or going out is the thing. And so Sotto is our go-to place for those occasions. It's really lovely. It's pretty basic inside, but the atmosphere is always busy and welcoming. It's all about the pizza, of course, and the pizza base there is fantastic. It's super thin in the middle, just how you want it. Yes. With a lovely billowy crust that's got a nice chewy texture.
Billowy.
Yeah.
What a great word.
So the base is fantastic, and then the toppings. Well, the topping choices tend to be fairly traditional in style. Yeah. My girls always get the same one, which is a classic margarita. Andrew and I tend to branch out a little bit. I've tried various ones from the menu, but my current favourite is the salame. With you get a choice there of either a douce salami topping or a more piquant, and I go for the piquant. I do like a bit of heat with that.
What's a douce salami?
Sweet.
Okay,
right. Dolce probably.
Oh yeah.
In keeping with the Italian theme. So that's my particular favourite. Andrew goes for Romana because he's a big fan of anchovies, and they deliver on the anchovies on that one. One word of warning: I have attempted once and never to be repeated. I've attempted they've got two pizzas there where they actually stuff a bit of mozzarella into the crust. Yeah. So not mozzarella, it's ricotta, and it's lovely. Don't try to eat one of those on your own.
Oh, okay.
Like the whole thing.
Share it. Yeah. Even ricotta being light, I imagine. Still gives
it's a beast. But it does add a nice dimension to the pizza. And the only other one I would say don't bother with is the tonno, which
tuna.
Yeah.
Bleh. Yeah. Well, I can't imagine any pizza joint can make that nice, but there you are. You had a nice time. I think I've been to Sotto with kids, so I think it's a good place to go.
Yeah, as I say, it's lovely to sit in. Service is super fast, friendly.
Yeah. The oven is like central. And they've got a garden. Yeah, it's quite...
Yeah, I don't think they've got much of a garden, or I've certainly never been out there. But they do have a sister restaurant as well. Yeah. That's over in the Plantage area. And they what was interesting about that when I was looking online is they have a slightly reduced lunch menu. Okay. So you can get a smaller slice of pizza and a drink. It's called a panuzzi. Or salads, and that's situated just between the zoo and it's sort of halfway between the zoo and the Nemo Museum. So if you were going out en famille and needed a pit stop,
yes,
I'd think that would be a good place to go.
Okay, good one. Sotto, so you've got a choice there of Oud West and on the east, if you like the sound of that. Everyone likes pizza. apart from maybe people who can't eat gluten. Amsterdam Kitchen. We're going a bit further away now. At the beginning of the week, I went all the way to Overijssel, which is a province in the kind of northeast, past Amersfoort, and it's right on the border with Germany. If you go to the eastern side of the province, it's really on the border, and we were really on the border, which I'll tell you more about in a minute. So we just my husband wanted a bit of time off, and he booked the week off. I'm really busy here with Broadcast Amsterdam, so I gave him 3 days, and now I'm really behind. So there you are, Menno. So we went to a very nice place called the Landgoed Holtweide. I probably said completely wrongly. Landgoed means estate. I've always seen that in places to stay. You see that a lot, Landgoed, and I've never really looked it up, but it means estate. So it's a hotel and spa type of thing, but you can also stay in a little cottage within the grounds. So that was quite good because you could then make your own stuff. It's got a small kitchen, but also use the hotel for when you don't feel like cooking or something. So that seemed like a good combination, and we got there on Monday, stayed 3 days. So we partook of some of their hospitality with the food, and I'll explain some of the economics of this. And I wasn't really expecting much with Overijssel. I didn't know much about it, but obviously out of the metropolis of Amsterdam, what can we expect to eat? Obviously, the hotel, it was a very good-looking hotel, and the restaurant looked good, but pricey. So, you can't eat there all the time.
Sure.
So lunch we did there, €9.50, tomato soup. It was very nice, but one of the smallest soups I've ever had.
That's pricey.
At $9.50. They gave me some brown rolls sliced up, but I don't like I'm not in it for the bread. So no, tiny, one of the smallest soups ever.
Wow.
The kids' toasty, I can't remember how much it was, but a kids' toasty, it was thick as anything. It was like as high as a mug of tea, a toasty. It was like a multiple story toasty.
Kind of rags to riches.
Yeah, about 6 layers thick and covered all over with melted cheese, like on the outside as well. And the thing is, Hans didn't even like it that much.
No.
It was too much for him, to cut. So, we cut it up for him, but no, he wasn't going. So that was a lunch experience. Same night, first night, 3-course dinner. Now, this is fairly affordable at €35 per person.
It's more like it.
Let's see. So we went for that, but then if you add 4 glasses of wine, that's 2 each, an aperitif, and a kid's meal and a dessert, that somehow doubled the bill. We were quite surprised by how much we spent that. And the dinner was okay. Like, they had other things on the menu, like one dish of lamb, €29. So, that's why we went for the set menu.
Sure.
So, and I'll explain a little bit. I can tell you what was on the set course. Let me give you a flavour of what it was. So, on the menu, that set 3-course menu, schoolfilet with rode beet, cantarelle. Oh, those cantarelle mushrooms. I love mushrooms. They were so watery.
Oh, no.
I was not impressed. We're right in the middle of a forest.
What a shame.
You would think the mushrooms would be good. I could have gone outside to a tree and picked up some mushrooms. And had the better, but they were very watery. I don't understand that. Main course was a ribeye with polenta. I like the polenta, the best bit. The gravy was quite strong. And vegetables. We got side order of salad and vegetables. They were kind of meh.
Oh dear, this is not sounding good.
No. And the dessert was a vita chocolade, mousse of vita chocolade with bramen, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Blackberries and some framboos. The funny thing was, I really liked the wine that went with it. We just had 1 glass of wine, white, with the first course, and then 1 red. The red was amazing. It has the longest legs I've ever seen on a wine. And when wine, if you have a long legs, if you like shake the glass around, you look at the amount of the wine,
how the liquid falls down.
That's it, kind of dripping. How long they stay shows kind of like how strong
so it was a leggy red.
And if they stay around forever, probably still there. No. It was a Spanish wine, El Seno Monastrell e Syrah Jumilla Spania. So that was a Spanish red.
Okay.
But I really liked that. And boy, did we pay for it. But it had one of the most elegant looking water bottles I've ever seen. It was really thick bottled. They'd branded it with their home. So it was like, water from the tap. But such elegant water bottles.
But then is it
water.
Difficult to pick up because it's so heavy?
It was all right. I kind of
Manageable.
liked it. It's like that feeling when you pick up a bottle of whiskey. So it had that, it's just water.
Yeah,
gives you that sense of
so it makes it feel a bit more special. Yeah,
and water is special, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need to stay hydrated. And then finally, the kind of funny thing about the dinner is the kids' dinner came with a whole Kinder Egg as well as ice cream,
wow.
$3 of various different ice cream and a whole Kinder Egg. So Hans was very happy.
I'm sure he was. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move it on now. Obviously, that was quite pricey. So the next night, we kept it simple. We drove 15 minutes to Germany from this place. It's Latrop in Overijssel on the border. In Germany, we just happened to go on schnitzel night. They always serve schnitzel.
Lecker.
Yeah, they nearly always serve schnitzel at this restaurant. Frenchian always serves it, but this night, it's $9.50. And we had it. It was great. I had the classic schnitzel. Loved it. Nothing fancy in the restaurant, but they still had an amuse. So the amuse-bouche was a bit of pulled pork and a dollop of potato salad, which I like.
Oh, okay.
I think you could just do it.
Not your typical amuse,
No.
I would say.
No.
But perhaps very German.
Yeah, and it was a good value, good atmosphere, so I like that.
Do you know, I know Nordhorn, this place where you went.
Nordhorn!
Yeah, I know
That was it.
It's my mother's best school friend lives there.
No way.
And she herself comes from a village nearby called Lingen. So.
I like it, Nordhorn.
Yeah.
I had a really nice
Got
feeling.
very happy memories of Nordhorn, yeah.
In Germany. Okay, cool. And then the last night we drove to a local pig-themed restaurant in the Netherlands in Overijssel, but it was closed.
Aww.
So then we had last minute, we found a lovely pasta joint, fresh pasta, with a Sardinian chef, and it was great. And that was in the old town of Uitmarsen, which was not far from the hotel. So overall, not a bad experience of eating in the provinces. I do miss gastropubs, which we have in the UK. They don't have that sort of thing, really, but not bad choices. The breakfast buffet we did not choose. I thought we would do one day at the breakfast buffet, but at these places, €20 a head.
It stacks up, right?
And $12.50 for kids. So it would have been over €50 for breakfast. And we're not even big breakfast eaters. No. I was, just going to...
Yeah. Breakfast is always a bit of a killer in hotels and things, isn't it? They sting you.
Yeah. So this cottage had self-catering. We got some croissants the night before from a baker. And then on the way home, we got a bakery in the village sold very good krentenballen. We saved ourselves a fortune.
What's a krentenballen?
Krentenballen is like a currant bun sort of thing.
Equivalent to
not like a hot cross bun, but because it's without the spices, it's more like a currant bun.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a good old staple. So
that's a smart move.
If you're interested in going to Overijssel, there's quite a lot of nice hotels. There's a campsite in this same place as well. If you don't want to stay at the Landgoed Holterweide, but that was the experience. Amsterdam Kitchen. Right, we're back for our in-season.
Yes.
Segment, which we have yet to make a jingle for. It will come. We've done oysters, we've done potatoes.
That's right.
What have we got this week?
This week, Cathy, it's blackberries, or bramen in Dutch. Well, why are we talking about those? Because they are obviously in season. They are full of fantastic nutrients, if you can get that. Potassium, magnesium, calcium, vitamins A, C, E.
Packed. I didn't really realise.
Yeah.
Apples is apple a day, flimming punnet of blackberries a day.
No, you want your blackberries, but how do you get them? Well, there's the obvious answer from various supermarkets. But actually, what inspired us to choose it this week is the notion of foraging, and I found a website. Wildplukwijzer.nl, which gives you a little map and shows you where you can go and find your own blackberries. Not just blackberries, it does list other items as well. But it's quite handy. So it points, for example, there's a particular spot in Vondelpark, several more down towards Amstelveen. So the map is very helpful, and they also remind you of a few, they're kind of common sense, but a few rules about foraging. So I'll just quickly recap on those. Primarily, don't be selfish. Right? So don't go there with a bucket and think you're going to stock your freezer.
Are the rules. Save some for everybody.
Rule number 1, exactly.
Yeah.
Be careful of the right of way. I mean, don't step out into the middle of the road if you're trying to reach for a particular juicy blackberry. Obviously, it might be someone's private land, so you have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Don't prick the low ones. I don't think I particularly need to elaborate on that.
Because of where the dogs pee.
Exactly. So there's just a few basic pointers about your foraging, and of course, if you can't be bothered to go foraging because it's hailing outside, then
it might just be it's Amsterdam.
Yes. Then the other way to go, of course, is to the supermarket, and I did happen to pick some up today from my local place. So if you want to
lovely.
have a sample while we're on air, feel free.
I don't often eat blackberries, only when I'm picking, picking the blackberries.
No, I do love it.
Go on.
Yeah, and I have to say, the ones in the shops are bigger and juicier, and I mean, flavour maybe does sacrifice a little bit, but
not got like fuzz all over them.
Exactly,
yeah.
you know that they're good to go. So when you've got your brambles, though, brambles, blackberries, once you've got them, what are you going to do with them? What would you do with them?
That's it. They stay in the fridge for ages. I like to put them in a blackberry and apple pie. That's the main thing. Mm-hmm. There's a blackberry crisp I've made before, which is a bit like a crumble but with a lighter top. And then a galette by Nigella Lawson in her Domestic Goddess book, which is kind of like that. Uses like a polenta crust, blackberries, and then you put a dollop of creme fraiche. And you kind of like turn in the edges. It's in the recipe book, Domestic Goddess. That's a great way to use blackberries. Yeah. And then you put it in the oven and stuff. Okay. That's nice.
Well, it won't come as a surprise to you that my personal favourite way is less healthy.
Go on, tell us.
It's actually used in a cocktail called the Bramble. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in our drinkables feature later. But that's my personal favourite.
And for those of you who are still looking, and you can go to that website for finding them. What's it called again?
It is
Wildeplukkwijzer.
Wildeplukkwijzer.
I can tell you for sure there are blackberries by the Nieuwe Meer. So you go out towards the Amsterdamse Bos, but you know where you got that long rowing lake. Then you can take a bicycle path off to the right. Not into the Bos on the left-hand side of the rowing lake, but on the right-hand side. And you go up towards, there's also things, there's a park overland, all around there in that side of the wood, blackberries.
Lovely.
The other side of the Bos is better for wild garlic, but wild garlic's not so good in a cocktail.
No. Well, there's a challenge to the bar people of Amsterdam.
Yes. Amsterdam Kitchen. We are here with the Amsterdam Kitchen, local food stories, and our Eat My Dutch segment.
Yeah. So this week we are looking at a phrase, koffie verkeerd. Don't ask me about pronunciation. I hope that's close enough.
It's not bad.
No, thank you. So what on earth is koffie verkeerd? I mean, Amsterdam's full of coffee shops and you might easily come across this on your menu. I was a bit flummoxed when I first saw it. I knew enough Dutch to know that it translated as wrong coffee. To me, that meant, maybe it's a decaffeinated coffee.
Yeah, that would be a logical idea, yes.
But it's not. So, koffie verkeerd, you have to start from the idea of what is coffee normal, which is basically black filter coffee. Nothing added, nothing taken away. And then... And maybe at most a coffee might have a drop of milk in it. But what turns it into koffie verkeerd is when the coffee, it's like 50-50 coffee and milk. And that's what makes it wrong. You're no longer doing normal.
It's 50-50. That's 50-50. A lot of milk.
It is a lot of milk.
Ooh.
It's more than I can stand.
Yes. Yeah.
It's definitely wrong to me.
Yeah.
But it's also none of your fancy frothy milk or cream or anything like that. It is just straight hot milk.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that's what my research tells me.
Yeah.
So in other words,
it's not a latte then. Because a latte does use that foamy milk.
That's right. And it also it starts from the basis of an espresso. Whereas what we're talking about is a filter coffee.
Okay.
So it's already a milder type of coffee.
Difference.
Yeah.
Well, subtle or important, depending on how obsessive you are about your coffee.
Well, some people are pretty damn obsessive, I can say. So it basically it does compare to a latte in flavour, and it's a milky coffee. Also, café au lait or German Milch coffee. The Swiss version would be café renversé.
You are well travelled, Geli, with your coffee.
Well, I like my coffee, so I have to find out what the word is for it everywhere. But actually, personally, it's one to avoid. I like my coffee strong, hot, like my men.
Yes, I knew that was coming. Didn't we all? Well, I suppose.
What's your pet hate with coffees?
My pet hate locally is that generally, although you seem to differ, I find you can't get cold milk in your coffee. So if I just want an Americano with some cold milk, they often
doesn't
either
compute.
They bring you foam milk, or no, most of the time they'll give you coffee milk, which is those little cartons of coffee milk.
That's the worst, yeah.
And you can't actually get milk. And I know they have milk because they make the lattes, but they won't give it to you. Maybe they don't have any jugs or whatever, but
there might be some crazy health and safety legislation that means that they can't.
It's just stubbornness. So you get those coffee milk cartons. I would rather have black coffee than have the coffee milk cartons. I don't know. It's just that aftertaste is too yucky.
Awful.
But that's the annoying. I don't see the use of those coffee milk cartons in so many other cities or countries as much as I have seen here. But I don't know, it depends where you go. And the other hate is not so much with coffee but with tea, is that they always serve it in these ceramics without a decent handle, sometimes no handle at all. You're talking about boiling water in a ceramic and you don't have a handle, and it's like you can hardly touch it.
I blame Instagram for that.
Yes. So I don't
lovely
approve
pictures, but actually not very practical.
Handles on mugs and
please.
Coffees. Like, it's ridiculous how they give you the straight glass and no handle, and it's
the glasses in a metal holder, and that it never supports the glass
not even that
well enough. It's just it's wrong.
Pet hate.
More wrong.
There you go. Moan. That's us. Not really. There's plenty to be happy about. There's lots and lots of very good coffee places. We're going to get the guy from the Coffee Vine in to come and talk about all that. Alex Catane, he's going to come in a few weeks' time. So if you're into your coffee, keep tuning in.
Yes.
Saturday mornings, 10 till 12, or catch us online. So that was our Eat My Dutch bit. Amsterdam Kitchen. We've got for you our drinkables section, and it's how can we drink raspberries? Not raspberries.
Blackberries.
Raspberries. It's a new adventure, a cross between a blackberry and a raspberry, raspberry.
Well, I'm sure someone out there is working on that right now. How to hybridize.
Blackberries, otherwise known as bramen in Netherlands.
Exactly, yeah. So as I said before, I particularly enjoy blackberries in a cocktail called the Bramble. And quite appropriate that you did that throwback track just then, Cathy, because what I want you to kind of, you and I are of a particular vintage, right?
Don't remind me.
I want to cast your mind back to your mid-20s, let's say. I don't know, you're in
Josephine's age.
Yeah, you say exactly, right, here we go. So you're in a club, and it's a members club, you are in your fuchsia pink rah-rah skirt or hot pants. But the question is, what are you drinking? What's in your hand?
Actually, we were probably drinking snakebite. No, it's a fancy club. Oh, yeah, because I did spend quite some time in hockey clubs drinking snakebite and black.
Yeah.
Probably vodka tonic, something like that.
Yeah, okay. Well, what if the barman, a very dapper young man from London, came up to you and offered you this Bramble cocktail? It involves creme de mure, which is a blackberry liqueur.
How do you spell mure?
That's M-U with the little circumflex on top, R-E.
Ooh.
Creme de mure. It's French, a French-based liqueur based on blackberries, essentially. The creme refers to the sugar syrup, which is super thick.
Yes, so like creme de cassis.
Exactly.
But creme de mure for the blackberry one.
For blackberries, exactly. Right. All right. So in your cocktail, you have some lemon juice, this creme de mure, lots of ice, and this cocktail was first created by a man called Dick Bradsell in the 80s. He was working at a members club called Fred's in London. Okay. And it's one of the few, new cocktails come onto the scene all the time, and not many of them actually stand the test of time. Right?
Yes.
Not many of them get beyond the club or the bar in which they're served. Right. But actually the Bramble is one of the few that's kind of broken through and become a contemporary classic.
Yeah, I didn't know it came from the 80s.
Yeah, which... I don't know, to some people that sounds like history, and as I say, to you and me, maybe not so much.
Kind of.
Anyway, so Dick Bradsell was a very well-known cocktail barman of the time. He's also famous for another very popular contemporary cocktail. Have you ever come across the espresso martini?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course.
I don't often have it because, you're drinking cocktails at night, aren't you?
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to have at night is an espresso because I have trouble sleeping. But then sometimes, if you know you're going to have a long night and you've got some time, then you might want the coffee to keep you going because you've still got plenty more partying to go.
If you're still planning to go off to a club or something, it might be the right thing. I often tend to have it as an alternative to dessert.
Okay.
Yeah.
I very rarely. I think maybe once.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Dick Bradsell, the man behind the Bramble cocktail and the espresso martini. Yeah, clever guy. How do you make it? Well, you need some nice gin. That was the key ingredient that was...
so you had the creme de mure, the
creme de mure and the gin.
Because I was thinking that doesn't sound very strong.
No.
Gin will do it.
No, not on its own. And also a bit sweet. So actually, the gin will help balance that out. Basically, you start with... It's 2 shots gin to...
2 shots of gin? Really calm down. Okay.
I like my cocktails, sorry. I won't apologise, no. 2 shots of good quality gin and 1 shot of lemon juice, half a shot of sugar syrup and half a shot of creme de mure. Those are your
Do you shake it up?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So you pour the gin, lemon juice and sugar syrup into the shaker, half fill it with ice.
Right.
Give it a good firm shake.
Okay.
Don't tickle it. It has to be...
Tickle it?
Yeah, no.
What does that mean? That's a cocktail term.
No, not really. But I mean, some people just kind of... they're a bit limp with their shake. And, and actually...
It's a good
part
firm
of cocktail
shake.
cocktails, you've got to develop that firm shake on your cocktail and making skills. So, so that's what you need to do. And then you pour the whole thing into an old-fashioned glass. It's the size of, kind of like a tumbler is the shape you want, with lots of more crushed ice. Then, it's kind of my favourite bit, is you then drizzle over the top the creme de mure over the top of the ice, and it sort of does this lovely slow sinking down, and then you get this kind of sunset effect.
Like an tequila sunrise, but with a purple of the Brahman and blackberries.
Yeah, exactly. And then you just top it off with a nice fresh blackberry and a slice of lemon, and
that's it. Don't forget the actual blackberries.
Yeah.
Like that. Tumble them on. Okay. Sounds like your sort of thing, Josephine.
I'll try it.
Yes. Where is it? Normally Geli brings something in for us to try.
I know. I toyed with the idea of... it was just too much kit for me to bring in. So I'm afraid it's a bit lame, but I've got fresh blackberries for you. That's all today.
Oh, thank you, though. Good recipe. And, of course, with those Brahman being in season, you can catch them for free if you go and forage, as we were talking earlier in the show. That's why it's our in-season and our drinkable this week on Amsterdam Kitchen. Amsterdam Kitchen. Generally, what everyone's all about right now is the apple picking. So you've got lots of events. I haven't got a particular one picked out for you because there's lots of different orchards that you can get to. I quite like the Almond Horse. It's out of town. I forget. I did a whole video about it on YouTube.
Do you know what? Maybe we'll talk a bit more about...
next week. Yeah. Because I still think everyone's talking about the apple season, but I still think it's a bit too early.
I think so too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's plenty of time for apples, September, October. So pace yourselves, everybody. There's plenty to go around. But, there will be some people getting very excited about apple picking. Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Josephine.
Thank you very much for having me. I've been a bit quiet for the last few things, but I've been learning a lot about all the food events.
I know. It's hard to get a word in edgeways with those. Sorry. But thank you to Matt J. Brown for some of our music bed tracks. Check out online next week. I think we have a guest. We've got more on the show. Same as usual, local food stories. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Amsterdam Kitchen. Join us live on Saturday mornings
from 10 till 12
on Broadcast Amsterdam.
Or catch up later.
It's all online.